month later. So. At this time, I'll call the January 4th, 2024 meeting to order for the Dickinson County Commission. Would you please stand and join in the flag salute? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have two items that we're going to add to the agenda. One would be that of a KDOT agreement. And then the second one is in regards to setting the salary on elected officials for an increase. And with that, I would move that we approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second it.
We have the motion, we have the second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The consent agenda includes the minutes of the December 28th meeting, also payroll of $403,421.25, a hand check of $32.10, added tax of $231.02.
I move to accept the consent agenda. Second.
We have the motion and the second for acceptance of the consent agenda. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Commission comments. Ron?
No comment today.
Craig?
Nothing. There was nothing on the computer.
Okay. Earlier this morning, Marcia Schneider was in here. She's our human resource director. And so she gave us her report and some information. Also, I received notice they're going to start now in January to continue the Military Affairs Council breakfast. They have one later this month. And I'll check my schedule. Most likely will attend. Then after our meeting today, we have invited some of the local legislators here and as a commission and some of the officials here in Dickinson County. We're going to meet with them just to discuss some issues of interest and concern that are going to impact counties. And that's all I had. We do have today a proclamation. And so we're going to go ahead. Angela, you're here on that. So yes, if you'd step to the podium and introduce yourself, and then also you can have your reading of the proclamation.
Okay. I'm Angela White. I'm the sexual assault advocate at DBAC in Salina. January is Slavery, Human Trafficking, and Stalking Awareness Month. And so we're doing a lot in the colleges, getting in the schools, to bring awareness, to all this. So National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month proclamation, January of 2024. Whereas millions of men, women, and children are victims of human trafficking, which is the second largest and fastest growing criminal industry in the world. Whereas human trafficking denies victims basic human dignity and freedom and is based on recruiting, harboring, transporting people through the use of force, fraud, and/or coercion for the purpose of sexual exploitation or forced labor. It is a crime that can take many forms and tears at our social fabric, debases our common humanity, and violates what we stand for as a country. Whereas traffickers frequently target victims and then use violence, threats, lies, false promises, debt bondage, or other forms of control and manipulation to force victims to work against their will or to keep victims involved in commercial sex exploitation. Whereas the U.S. Justice Department has identified Kansas as an originating state for human trafficking, and most trafficking in Kansas involves our local children. Whereas with improved victim identification, medical and social services, training for first responders, and increased public awareness, the victims who have suffered this cruel crime can overcome the bonds of modern slavery, receive protection and justice, and successfully reclaim their rightful independence. And whereas the Domestic Violence Association of Central Kansas is joining forces with the victim service providers, criminal justice officials, and concerned citizens throughout Central Kansas and the United States to observe National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month. Together, we commit to a society where our sense of justice tells us, united, we can eradicate this wrong and continue to fight for human dignity and the rights of every person. Now, therefore, the Dickinson County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaims January 2024 as National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month and applauds the efforts of the many victim service providers, police officers, prosecutors, national and community organizations, and private sector supporters for their efforts in opposing human trafficking in all of its forms.
Thank you. Is there a motion to?
I'll make a motion to accept the proclamation of National Stalking and National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention. Second.
We have the motion. We have the second for approval and acceptance of this proclamation. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And then would you like to make a few additional comments and tell us a little bit about DBAC or?
Yes, I also have a stalking awareness proclamation here to read as well.
Okay.
And yes, like I said, we do all the DBAC services are free and they are confidential. If a person is in imminent danger, you know, of course, they can come into shelter. We provide everything for them, food, clothing, toiletries, everything. We also have different support groups. You have outreach clients that can come in. We also help once they get their housing voucher through like Section 8 or whatever, we can help with rent and deposits, utilities, stuff like that. So National Stalking Awareness Month Proclamation, January 2024. Whereas stalking is an intentional harassment, a pattern of behavior directed at a specific person, causing that person to feel fear and endangerment for themselves or their family. The variation in stalking behavior ranges from hang-up phone calls or more direct threats towards a victim. The likelihood of injury increases when the stalking behavior escalates over time. Whereas under the laws of Dickinson County, Kansas, and all jurisdictions in the U.S., stalking is a crime. Whereas the majority of victims are stalked by someone they know, typically an ex-dating partner or an acquaintance. And 3 in 4 women killed by an intimate partner had been stalked by that same intimate partner. Whereas the statistics do not represent the true incidence and prevalence of stalking for multiple reasons, including not all victims report that crime to law enforcement. And stalking is a tactic of domestic violence and sexual abuse, so it may not be reported as a primary form of abuse and victimization, although the victim has experienced stalking along with other forms of abuse. Whereas many stalking victims are forced to protect themselves by relocating, changing their identity, changing jobs, and obtaining protection orders. Whereas many stalking victims lose time of work and experience serious psychological distress and loss of productivity at a much higher rate than in the general population. Whereas communities can better combat stalking and raising awareness, adopting multidisciplinary responses by teams of local agencies and organizations, and by providing more and better victim services. Now, therefore, the Dickinson County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim January 2024 as National Stalking Awareness Month. And we do see a lot of that at DBAC. Along with a lot of human trafficking. The numbers would surprise you. I mean, it's definitely an issue. Definitely an issue.
Is there an increase in the last decade, or is it just the ability to detect it as raised that?
It has definitely increased. And with Kansas, you have the I-70, I-35 corridor. And so you can get anywhere in the United States through those 2 interstates. And so that's why Salina and nearby Dickinson, Ellsworth, all of our other counties that we serve, You know, it's like a triangular, you know, you got Kansas City, you got Wichita, you got Salina. We haven't had instances with certain people that come in for human trafficking, and they mention that there's somebody there in this house that's from Canada that has been kidnapped, and that is on the most wanted list, you know, looking for her. We get a lot of that. You have people that come in to shelter and they're recruiters for human trafficking. And so you have to really be careful and be diligent on who you allow into shelter. We've had a few instances of that. And that individual or those individuals, they will never be allowed back in shelter due to that. So, and then with the stalking, we get people that are stalked from Washington. We get people from Georgia, Colorado, all over, where their intimate partner is following them and tracking them every place they go. And then they just got to stay a little bit and then move on again, you know. So it is a big issue. It is a really big issue. So, and when there's children involved, you know, that makes it even worse. So we're out there doing the best we can, and hopefully we can kind of curb some of this stuff. So.
And the financial support for your group comes from grants or individuals, or?
It's individuals, and we get government grants and stuff to help run DBAC. So, yes.
Would you consider yourself underfunded or adequate, or?
I'd say, I say we're adequate. There are times when we do run out of funds, as far as like with mileage, you know, trying to get, you know, to and from for court. We have a great court advocate. I'm her replacement as well. We're always here in Dickinson County, you know, in the courts with the PFAs and the PFSs, which protection from stalking and protection from abuse, you know, orders and stuff. And I know Judge Googler wants us to get more involved as far as in like with Harrington and, you know, some of these other small towns, you know, because there is a huge issue. And so, and we have been working on that to get that word out. You know, we send out our human trafficking pamphlets. There's a spot on the back of it that has a thing where you can scan and it goes directly to the KBI, and to where you can report to the KBI if you see any trafficking or suspicious behaviors and stuff. And that's really nice that the governor's office has done that, you know, and we all work together for that. So yes. Okay, I appreciate your.
We had that second proclamation, so we'll need.
I'll make a motion. Yes.
And I'll second that. So we have also the motion and second to accept the proclamation on the human trafficking that you just read. So.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Do you need them to sign it?
I will have, she's going to email that to me.
Okay.
Stuff. So, all right. Thank you
Thank you
for your
for the
time.
work you do, and
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
others. And I know there's probably a lot of networking involved with law enforcement, the judicial system, and
Yes.
probably many others.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
You.
Okay, we do have another, is this in the form of a proclamation or recognizing
Just a recognition, and I've asked
dispatchers?
Emily to come up here and maybe touch on the EMD compliance and what the process is and how we've achieved that.
Well, there's your intro.
Because it's pretty impressive. Yeah.
It is.
What EMD stand for?
Emily Papa, 911 director. I'm here to discuss our emergency medical dispatching, which is our EMD program.
There we go.
It is our list of medical questions that we go through that was handpicked with the help of John Holgren when we first implemented it. think Dr. Sporting was a part of it back then. I'm trying to remember how many doctors ago that was. And so when we implemented this program, when someone calls 911, they have specific questions that they ask to get answered, to get to specific, not really diagnosis, but a general direction of where their chest pain is, abdominal pain, you know, if it's appendix, gallbladder, things like that. Little things to help EMS better prepare when they get on scene. So in the 22 years that I have been here, we have never had 100% compliance for an entire year. And we have achieved that in 2020.
Wow.
So I'm very proud of my staff, none of which could join me because we're so short staffed right now and they're all working or sleeping. So, but yes.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Emily reviews the calls that come in and looks for the criteria to make sure that it's met, and that's part of her process. So that's a big part of this. So we're pretty proud of them.
Oh, sure.
Review one call per week and it's completely random. We do just general selection. It would be anything from a code blue to childbirth to a sick person or a fall.
I was going to say, there's so many variables or situations that.
But we have a checklist that they have to abide by. And so it's impressive that all of them have completed 100% throughout the entire year.
And I will also say that our dispatch has put higher standards into the training and what they're looking for, because we do have a director that is managing that. And I think that's a big part of it as well. So.
And the national standard is 90% compliance for the entire staff. Our department is 95%. So them exceeding above that for the full 12 months for each individual dispatcher is just impressive. And I'm very proud of my staff.
Yes.
Well, congratulations and thank you for your work. I might mention last week, and as a commission, we're kind of randomly doing this after our work study session, and there's times that it allows us to have maybe 15 minutes or so. And we did visit with you and the dispatchers, their location last week, and it's just so professional and really sophisticated, but considering the situations you're dealing with, I really have a great appreciation for what you do and your staff. And I think you've provided excellent leadership, and that's important because that has to be translated to the staff. And I just had a great sense of satisfaction, and give you and your staff high marks, because it is so important to the county.
And we appreciate you. And my mom was so disappointed in me that my mind went blank for the Farsi joke, because my grandpa used to say it all the time. And I was like, I totally blew it.
Oh, I'd like you to have a little fun in that too.
It was like I was steering the hell out of my home. Mind went blank. Yeah, I'm never going to put that one down. So thank you. We appreciate.
Thank you, Emily.
Well, keep up the great work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, this also would be opportunity if there's anyone online that would have a question or comment. Your opportunity for that would be now, but also on anything that is not on the agenda, or if there's anyone in the audience that would want to comment or bring up any particular issue or question, this would be opportunity to do so. Since we do not have any public comments at this meeting, we'll go ahead and move on. The next item an area is reports of county officers. Our county administrator, Janelle Dockendorf, for your report, please.
Commissioners, I'm hopeful, weather holding, that they will be pouring the concrete deck at 1145 First Road. If they don't pour it tomorrow, the plan is to do that next week, but we will see, because that leads into my next comments, that the highway department is preparing the roads as best they can for the possibility of the upcoming storm. So they are working towards that, getting the brine ready and that. So if you noticed, the courthouse parking lot was pretty full this morning. We have a jury trial today and tomorrow, and then another jury trial all next week. So we've got staff parking in the West Lodge. It's going to be a little difficult for citizens. We're just asking for their patience until the jury selection is completed, and it's going to take a long time. The other good thing is the floodplain resolution that you adopted on December the 14th has been approved through the state. So that is a very good thing. And like you said, we've got the upcoming legislative lunch. I would also like to point out that yesterday when I was on the radio, John Anderson asked some questions about the wind farm. Nothing has come before the Planning and Zoning Board or the County Commission to date. The expectation is it's going to be sometime in this first quarter, but we don't know that for sure. We've not received any application or documentation from them. So we're still waiting. We're doing our due diligence with planning for the meetings and looking at agreements once they provide them to us. So, but nothing is before the PBZ board or you.
So when they do their application, if that event, when that occurs, if they would go to Tim Hamilton in person and fill out or send registered letters.
They'll send the application to him, and then he will notify obviously Doug and myself, and then take it to his planning and zoning board, and we'll set up the public hearings for that. But prior to that, they'll send the draft agreements to us, and we'll review them, negotiate with them on that, and that will be done before the public hearings are held.
Okay.
I just want to make sure, point of clarification, because I think it sounded like it was a little confusing yesterday.
Okay. Do you have anything else?
I don't. That's enough.
County Councilor Doug Thompson.
Well, just a few comments. The first one is we're going to move forward with the next tax sale. And we just got the initial paperwork, so we'll start on that. And I want to try to get 2 of those tax sales done this year so we can begin to get caught back up from COVID days. And I've followed Angie out, Angie White with DVAC, to get some paperwork from her, because this is an epidemic that's taking place right now, and we're not isolated away from it. And there's so many people coming across the border. We ran into some that stopped up at Dollar General, I think it was, and they were just, we need some money. We don't have any money for gas. We don't have money for this. And it wasn't just for that purpose, for the money for it. They just needed some money. So we helped out with a little bit of money, but I can see in the car what's there and what's happening and what's taking place. And this is horrible, absolutely horrible. What's happening to these young people that are being used, and this is unacceptable. And I know it is to each and every one in this room. So that's all I have for right now. And I'll bring you up to date on some other matters at a little later date that I'm looking through for the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Under notices and communications, we have a few things here. Our county news, and it gives just a little overview as far as what's happening throughout the United States. Last week also, and I did pass the information on to Jeannie Livingston, but I forgot to bring it up in the meeting. We had a notification from KDHE, and anytime a permit is issued, it's more of a formality that they notify the counties. And there's the city of Solomon, and sometimes it's for livestock or whatever. But anyway, we have notifications, so we have that on record and on file, and it's more of a procedural type thing. Was there any other items that anyone else received?
I didn't receive any, but you go over your meeting with Chuck Henry.
Actually, it was with CanEquip.
Yeah, but yeah, well, it's probably
Sure.
the old Chuck Henry site.
That's the old, exactly. So CanEquip has purchased the property where the old Chuck Henry building was. And we had a meeting yesterday, including the Dickinson County Economic Development Corporation, Jessica Goodall, and then Tim Hamilton, Planning and Zoning, Lisa Berg, the county appraiser, Marcus, our assistant county administrator and finance director, and myself, and then Craig Goff. And they are planning on applying for a property tax abatement. So that will be coming before you once they fill out the application. It's sent to the appraiser's office, then it will be sent to the Board of Tax Appeals, and then we'll follow our process here, adopting a resolution and getting letters of support from the school district, or having them sign that, and from the city of Solomon as well. So I'm very pleased with that. And I think that Jessica's got a few other things that she's working on. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised if you'll have a few more coming before you for businesses either expanding or coming into the county. So
No, is that going to be based on improvements that they're making or job creation or both, or?
he's filling out the application. I think primarily it's going to be on the improvements that they're making at the site. But that, we did discuss job creation as well, so.
And then are there different types of abatements as far as, is it based on percentage or?
The counties is pretty straightforward. It's 100% the first year and then increments of 10% for the next 10 years. Yes. They could also work and receive some abatements or assistance from the state as well. Just depends on the program that they're applying through. So.
And that's consistent from what I know, and maybe, maybe at some point, we need to have Jessica come in.
We will.
And have a discussion just policy wise and an update as far as the EDC, just to, that criteria, we want to be competitive and consistent with what other counties are doing. Or if we can incentivize people in a way, we just need to look at that.
Right. And this is a resolution that we're working off that the county commission adopted in 1998. So, and this has been our practice for those many.
Be a good time to review then.
This is true.
It's been that long.
This is true. Yes.
Okay. But it sounds like good news.
Yes, I think so.
Any other notices and communications? We'll go ahead and move on. We have under other business, the indigent defense contract with Bruce Berry, and that's kind of a follow-up on the previous week.
Correct. So we did not have the signed agreement with Bruce at the time that you approved the other three. So this is just a follow-up to make sure that that piece gets approved. So it's a housekeeping matter for that. He's agreed to the contract and ready to move forward.
We will sign the contract. It's not a problem. He just wasn't available at the time that the others were. I talked to him at the last court date, and I'll make certain that he gets a signed contract.
Your staff had sent it to me, so we have it.
And we'll have 4 attorneys then at that point,
Correct.
as well as you for a backup or participant for a little while.
Okay.
Okay. I would go ahead and move that we approve this contract with Bruce Berry for indigent defense. We have the motion, we have the second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item we have, it's real property relief application. This is a property at 214 East 5th Street, Chapman, for Neil Wheatley. And Janelle, just procedurally, the circumstance that brings this before us.
So the state legislature had passed a law in 2022 advising that if a piece of property was destroyed or substantially destroyed, then the property tax could be waived with an application that they have submitted to the appraiser's office. The appraiser's office reviews it and then brings it to you for approval or disapproval. This one happened to be a fire that destroyed the home completely, and he's asking for credit to be applied for his property. So we're abating the 2022 taxes.
Should be up here, shouldn't it?
Should what be up here? Yes, we'll make sure that's correct in there. But we're abating the 2022 taxes, and then the appraiser's office will make the correction for the 23 taxes, and then they will not be on the 24 taxes as well. So we're just asking that you approve this for the Citizen Bridge property that was damaged.
I'll move.
I'll second it.
We have the motion and the second for real property relief tax application on 214 East 5th Street, Chapman. Any discussion, question? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Prior to having our executive session, we have 2 items that we added to the agenda. The first one is that of an agreement with KDOT. Janelle?
Commissioners, the Highway Department had applied for funding through KDOT for the off-system bridge program. This is actually a federal program that flows down through the state, and the bridge is at 1160 1100 Avenue. It's a 73-year-old bridge with a was built in the 1950s with a 6-inch concrete deck. And it's not held up. It's part of the process. We have to make sure that it meets requirements and it's deficient essentially. So we've received funding to replace that bridge, and the total project cost we're estimating it is $1.35 million, of which our share is $100,000, and then we'll receive funding from the state of the 1.25. So this has been in the works for quite some time. Probably a couple of years, quite honestly. It's been identified, and it takes that long to work through that process. So our engineer has been working on it along with Martin at the time. So this is a formality. The grant has been approved. We just need the signature on the agreement with KDOT.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll second it.
We have the motion and the second to enter this agreement with KDOT. And that was for 1160 1100 Avenue, that bridge.
Mhm.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The next item we had was to set the increase amount for the salaries on elected officials. Janelle, or did you want Marcia to present that, or?
Marcia probably doesn't want to do that, so I'll just take care
You
of
have the
it.
information, and she did discuss it in the work study session.
Right. As part of your process and budgeting process, then we plan for budgets for the upcoming year. And a question came out a couple weeks ago about how the elected officials' salaries are handled. And they are built into our budgets, and we had planned for a certain percentage for them and budgeted for that. But they are also not included in our pay plan, where we have a step and grade process with that. They just received the rate that has been in place for a long time. They have received rate increases annually and the mid-year raises as well. But since they're not part of the official pay plan, we've carved them out and asked that you adopt a fee or a percentage for them for the upcoming year. And then we can get it into our system and move forward with the new rates for 2024. And it will take effect on the second check in January. And you're looking at a 6% increase for the elected officials.
Okay. Any questions, comments, or is there a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion to approve the 6% increase.
Second it.
We have the motion, we have the second for approval of the 6% amount, and this would apply to the elected officials. Any other discussion or question? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And it's in the amount of a little over $30,000 total is what we're looking at. So
Okay. The next item, one thing, I'll go ahead and maybe have you cover this, or just to bring it information wise. We have the schedule for the holidays for 2024, and that's just more of a standard procedure, but continuation of what we've had in place last year and the year before.
right, it'll be part of your reorganization resolution for next year to show when the courthouse is open and the dates that will be closed and the holidays that will be recognized. But I wanted to make sure that you saw that prior if there was any questions that you might have. And our recommendation is to continue on with the way it's listed.
Okay, the only item we have left we need to follow up on is an executive session. And this will be for non-elected personnel. And on this executive sessions, we will go ahead and start that
20 minutes?
11:36, and it will be for 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
And it will include the commission, also Forest Roads, Doug Thompson, John Holtgren, Marcia Schneider, and Janelle Dockendorf. And once again, this is in compliance to ASA 74-431-19B. And we're going to recess for executive session for 20 minutes, non-elected personnel. And that's my motion.
Okay.
Second it.
We have the motion, we have the second Any other discussion? And Janelle, is everyone here present that I've mentioned? So, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So we will be recessing for 20 minutes,
In a minute.
starting at 11:36.
Yes.
You know, we need to, I'd like to attend the meeting with the city of Abilene at 6 p.m.
Okay. Okay, good.
I don't know. Lynn, you want to be there or not?
When is that?
January
6th.
9th
Yeah, January
at
9th,
6 p.m. At the Abilene Public Library on the 14th Street project.
I'll probably be in attendance, just not as a participant, more listening.
Right. I'll just make sure that we have it posted on the calendar.
Okay.
And let me, not quite there yet.
10 seconds. And so we're officially recessed for. Okay, at this time, I'll make a motion that we return to regular session from our executive session.
I'll second it.
We have the motion and the second that we return to regular session from the executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're back in regular session. As a result of our executive session, we had a discussion regarding non-elected personnel, and there is no action or motions to be taken at this time. Is there any other comment or question? Next item we have is for adjournment.
So move.
Second it.
We have the motion and second to adjourn. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned.